Well, destiny has been the Bucs' best friend because they frankly controlled it up until now. And now they don't. Finally. And it was overdue. The Atlanta Falcons have defeated the Los Angeles Rams 27-24. They led this game 21-0. Great comeback by the Rams. It falls short. And now that means that if the Falcons, regardless of what the Bucs do on Saturday, if the Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints at home on Sunday, it well could be a three-way tie in the NFC South, in which case the Carolina Panthers are the NFC South champions by virtue of their division record. So the Bucs, who have, after every loss now for about 2 months, had said, well, hey, we still right there. Everything's in front of us. We control our own destiny. No, you don't. Not now. Not now, brother. Like, you've let go of the rope. It is not in your control. All they can control is whether they, can win a game on Sunday against Carolina. Now, doesn't mean it's not an important game because you win Saturday. Then if you do get help from New Orleans, you are the division champions. But, without winning, you certainly are not. And even if you do win, you need help. So this was a hell of a game, man. I mean, I'll say this about the Los Angeles Rams. When the Bucs got pummeled by them many weeks ago in Los Angeles, at that time, I thought the Rams were the best team I'd seen in football, period. But you know what the Rams have done? They've gone on the road to Carolina and had 3 turnovers and lost to the Panthers, right? Everybody talks about how bad the NFC South is. And now they've gone on the road against another team that has nothing to play for, in this case, Atlanta, and they have lost to the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South, where everybody says is garbage. And so I don't trust the Rams, who are not going to have any home games, to go through these playoffs and beat teams on the road. They're talented as hell. There's no doubt about that. And Matthew Stafford has had a good year. But in these big games, the ones that they needed to win, he didn't come through. He didn't beat the Seahawks. He didn't, and so, all of a sudden, you got a good football team, but one that has to take the long road through the playoffs. Maybe even going through Tampa if the Bucs were fortunate enough to host a game.
Well, they've lost 3 straight road games.
Yeah,
and they're going to be on the road to start the playoffs.
That's right. Yeah,
not a good formula.
Not a good formula at all. Not at all. I'm going to get back to this whole playoff scenario and stuff like that in a minute, but I also want to talk a little bit about our conversation today with Todd Bowles. And I found it fascinating. And this is something that, I've known for a couple of weeks, and it's obvious to everybody that watches the games, but we hadn't really asked him about it. And I had a chance to do so on Monday. And you can look at my timeline. You can see the video up of me questioning Todd Bowles. They had a pretty significant blocked field goal in this last game. They lost by 3. And at the end of the first half, it was a 55-yard attempt. Now, Chase McLaughlin he was 11 of 11, which was an NFL record from 50-plus, right? And so he's lining up for a 55-yarder. Ball comes out kind of low, but it gets blocked. And the Bucs, had a chance to go into the locker room with 3 more points come out, with the football because they had deferred to kickoff. And in any case, when I watched it in real time, I thought the kick was a little bit low. I didn't think it was like he hit the lineman in the back of the head, and there was a guy coming sort of off the edge, interior edge or whatever, that got the block. So when I asked Bowles about it, like, okay, we didn't ask you yesterday, hey, what happened on the field goal block at the end of the first half? He said, well, I thought the kick was a little bit low. Okay, fair enough. May have been. Okay.
But it wasn't blocked up the middle.
It wasn't a guy that came straight through the middle of the line of scrimmage, right?
That if it's low, okay, sure.
Yeah.
No, it was blocked around the edge.
Which means somebody didn't do their job, which means
Correct.
He got too much penetration or got too close to the ball coming off an edge. And so to me, that's on your special teams. Like, they have had now 4 kicks blocked. We talked about it with Riley Dixon. He was too slow to get rid of the ball, but there's still penetration there, right? There's still, a mess up somewhere in the scheme. And this has been going on since the beginning of the season, right? Bad special teams play. giving up huge returns, block kicks, not being able to cover kicks. All that stuff has been happening and happening and happening. And yet, Thomas McGay, the special teams coach, still here. I like him. Good guy. He's from my wife's neck of the woods up in Oak Lawn and all that, but has not done a very good job. I mean, undeniably, there's no statistic you can look at and say that's a well-coached special teams. Just not. Just doesn't exist. Okay, on every level, whether it's except for Chase, who's had a pretty good year after missing, I think, 2 of his first 3 kicks. He's come back and had a pretty good year, with the exception of another block, which was the second one of the season. So I started talking to Bowles about, what they did the last 2 games, which is kind of by default, they had Chase McLaughlin just kick the ball in the end zone. Like, we don't want it in the landing zone. We do not want a return. We are willing to play on a 65-yard field. With our bad defense, we're willing to give them the ball at the 35 every single time and not risk a run back that's going to go at least to midfield, right? So for the last 2 games, and it's not, the kick in the landing zone is 2 steps and you kind of pop it up, right? And you drop it inside the 10. The kickoff, to kick it through the end zone, it's what kickers don't like to do, which is run up, several steps and in full speed, launch one and try to drive it through the end zone. So they've been doing this now for 2 games, touchback, touchback, touchback. And then there was an occasion on Sunday where they attempted to do it. And according to Bowles, it was a mishit and the ball landed in the landing zone. And of course, proving his point, Miami's kick returner got it, it was like almost a 45-yard return, got it out to midfield, right? And so you're like, well, that's why they want touchbacks. But here's the thing that's just incredulous to me. And I went down this road with Bowles, and essentially this is what happened. So I said, well, are you kicking this ball through the end zone because you don't trust guys can cover the kicks? Clearly you don't trust them, right, to make tackles, stay in their lanes, whatever it is. You would prefer to give them the ball at the 35 than risk a run back and a return. And in fact, it was proven in the game when they did kick one short, it went back to midfield. And he said, yes, that is correct. We feel like, given the way we're playing, covering kicks, that our best option is to kick the ball in the end zone, give them the ball at 35. Think about what it takes to admit that, okay? So these are all players, okay, who are not, for the most part, starting players, right? But they're on the team to be backups and play teams. Now, when you went to training camp, those jobs are highly competitive. You're trying to build the back end of your roster with guys who can play as reserves, but to earn their keep on this roster, they have to be good special teams players. Not just okay. They got to be good. Like, you're looking for gunners. You're looking for, all different positions on those kick teams. And you chose these guys, right? All these players, you chose them. And oh, by the way, you've kept all of them throughout the entire season, right? It's not like you've been cutting guys right and left saying, well, this guy can't play, this guy can't play. No, you kept these guys. So you chose them, you kept them, and now you get towards the end of the season and you go, you know what? They're not very good. Let's just kick the ball in the end zone, right? You made no deals at the trade deadline. You haven't really brought anybody in from other practice squads. And I'm amazed that, this is professional football. Every other team I watched, including the 2 that played tonight, they didn't just kick the ball in the end zone, because they didn't trust their return. Most of those guys were being tackled between the 25 and the 30-yard line. I think the average return in the NFL is to the 27, 28. But it can also, if you can cover, it can be a weapon. Like, if you tackle a team, after a kickoff at the 20, they may need 2 first downs, to get where you're handing them the ball for a touchback. So
you can even force them into a penalty.
or
holding
back them
penalty
up
or something like that, which can really back them up.
That's right. You're competitive. You go down there. You force them to have to block you from behind or hold you, and now you got them backed up, maybe inside the 10-yard line. It's field position. It's 2 first downs. It's a lot of there's a lot that goes with that, and to just like by default say, let's just play on a 65-yard field today. We're happy with that. That's good enough because we can't do anything about it. But those are the guys you wanted. Like they won the jobs. You had tryouts. You had training camp. They were gunners. You had drills. You had, joint practices going against other people's teams. And these are the guys you said were going to have these jobs, and you're paying them to do these jobs. But then you're telling them, hey, guys, we have no faith in you whatsoever right now. So run down there full speed. And when the ball goes in the end zone, turn around, come back to the sideline because we are not going to risk you having to make a tackle. It's unbelievable to me when you really break it down, when you really think about it. That's where they're at as a team, as a special teams. And yet, no changes to the coaching staff whatsoever, right? And I asked Todd Bowles, I said, are you opposed to making any changes to your coaching staff during the season? He goes, no. That's not, not something I'm against necessarily. I said, you just don't feel it's necessary in the case of special teams? He said, no. Well, I'll tell you what, Rams.
So that tells me Todd Bowles thinks the players aren't good enough.
He thinks it's the players, not the coaching.
Right.
Yeah. But who picked the players? You had the whole world to choose from, right? You could bring anybody in the world into that camp and pick them as your special teams guys, including the guys you drafted, because there's a bunch of guys you drafted on those special teams. So I don't know what the hell you're drafting them for if they can't play teams.
Well,
they're not starters.
I mean, you draft players. Sometimes they don't work out. Sometimes you think they're better than they are or they don't perform. But those guys are so low on the depth chart. Why are you still holding on to them?
That's another great point.
It's one thing if you drafted them and they're not working out. Okay, that happens, right?
But if they're not helping you.
Right. But if they're not helping you and they're not playing anywhere else, like, make a change.
Yeah. That's the one thing I will say about this team and this franchise this year is, other than bringing in, God help me, Jason Pierre-Paul, who is not ready to play football, looks like he's not ready to play football. He did record a pass defense. He batted down a ball the other day. Other than that, no attempt at the trade deadline whatsoever. Of course, Jason Light has never really been a trade deadline guy. And for that matter, no real changes during the season on the practice squad. Not a lot of workouts where you sign guys. I don't even know you had a lot of workouts, period. Right? It's almost as if, and I have no evidence of this, but it's almost as if, it was, okay, here's your budget in the offseason. We're going to re-sign Gedeke. We're going to re-sign Zion McCollum. We're going to do our guys, right? The few that were Levante David, and we're done. No free agents, right? And don't expect any trades, that's going to maybe potentially cost us salary. We're just going to get a bunch of dudes off the street that are undrafted, and they're going to make the team, and they're going to be your special teams, and and you're stuck with them. Like, but even during the year, like you don't have guys tearing up other people's practice squads just to find a better gunner, find a combination of players that you don't have to kick the ball through the end zone for. Like, it's unbelievable to me. You can choose from the world, man. You got the whole world. There's millions of people that would love these jobs. Go out and find the guy that can make tackles. But instead, they have a whole roster full of players. And what's the message to them? If you're a professional football player and you're hanging on because you play teams, the message is, yeah, we don't even trust you on that. So don't expect to be in the NFL for very long, because we hired you to do a job, but we really don't think you're capable of it. Like, wow. What says more championship team than that? Than just a give up, right? Well, we're just giving it up, man. And so what happens tonight in this game? when they were down and they were down 21-0 and they needed a big play, Atlanta's lining up to kick a field goal, put them down 3 scores. Jared Verse busts through, blocks the field goal, scoops it up, and scores a touchdown. Right? Huge special teams play by a starting defensive player. Right? Put their best player out there on special teams, and he blocked a kick and returned it for a touchdown. And boom, they're back in the game. And that's after they fired their special teams coach. So good decision by McVay, who, by the way, they're going to the playoffs with or without the guy. Like, they're in the playoffs. They're not the division champions, but they already know they're in the playoffs, and they still fired their coach. And again, I like Thomas McVay. I'm not saying, should he be fired? I'm not calling for him being fired. What I'm saying is, how can an NFL football team that thinks that they're contenders in the playoffs or has a chance to win a division title just abdicate any chance of playing special teams on kickoffs? Like, we just can't do it. That's it. We cannot do it. We're done. Wow. It's just a wow to me. I was flabbergasted he admitted it. You can go on my timeline, you listen to the conversation we had back and forth, but and it's obvious to everybody. And then the one time they did have a return because it was a mishit, he proved his point. The guy ran it back all the way, ran it back 45 yards. So he's right. They can't cover kicks. But you know what? That's on you. That's not on the guys that can't make tackles or stay in their lanes. Now, they may be poorly coached too. You got to look at that, don't you? You got to look at what they're asking these guys to do. These are professional football players. These are professional athletes. These aren't guys from, Berkeley Prep that you signed to be your special teams gunner. These dudes played college ball and they earned these jobs, and you watch them in training camp, but for whatever reason, they can't execute. But no coaching change is necessary. Well, it was in LA. And last time I checked, everybody thought they were the best team in the NFC. I got news for you. They're not. They're not, because they keep proving they're not. And I thought Matthew Stafford, I have an MVP vote this year. I was thought, you know what? Matthew Stafford might be the MVP. I mean, he came in, he had like 40 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, something like that. In big games this year, he's turned the ball over. He's turned it over. And he's not beating these teams. And tonight he got beat by Atlanta. So I don't know. But man, how are the players? This is what I would, if I was on a team, how would I feel, about a coach who doesn't trust me, doesn't believe in me, right, or the collective of us to go out there and do what you're paying us to do? Is that a coach that I can get with? Is that a guy that I can follow? You don't believe in me. You'd rather just me not participate. I don't know why I'm on this team. I want to play. I want to help the team. I want to make plays. You're just taking it out. You're taking the ball out of my hands. That would not inspire me to play for that coach. It just wouldn't. So I don't know. So, random thoughts, but it struck me as odd that you're just giving that part of the game away, All right, so Christmas is over. It doesn't mean the lights are coming down just yet. Maybe you leave them up till February. But I'll tell you where you can get some good Christmas deals, and that's at Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. That's right. You probably screwed up. Maybe you didn't get the best gift, but you can make up for it right now. Go to Breitling Boutique, second floor, center of the mall, where Santa had his shop all set up. That's where you're going to find it. And they have the best Swiss watches now in the world, actually. Of course, they've been making these things for 140 years over there in Switzerland. And now you can go to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. They've been there for going on 6 years, and that's where you're going to find the best customer service. Tremendous watches for men, the Chronomats, the Navitimers that they're known for. Women's watches. These are sports watches. They're extremely durable. If your wife or girlfriend's on the go like mine, she's going to get a lot of wear out of these, and they're going to still look beautiful. Also choose from a different array of colored wristbands for her as well. And while supplies last, you will notice in the Breitling Boutique window, there's a big NFL shield. And next to that are a couple examples of the NFL team watches. 32 teams, 32 different team watches while supplies last. That's important. They're going fast. But I did see a Buccaneer team watch. I did see a Jaguars team watch. Might have been Liam Cohen's. I'm not really sure. But if you want to dress like Liam Cohen, go down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall, ask about the team watches, take a look at these things. Customer service is tremendous. And when you do go, please let them know you heard about them on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, we got a couple of mailbags before we get out of here today. Let's hit these.
Well, Jill had tweeted us. She says, I think your prediction is going to come true. Atlanta wins their last 2 games. Is it too late for Baker to take back the smack he talked about the Saints? Our fate may be in their hands Sunday.
Yeah, well, you know what? They've already helped them a little bit. I mean, if you recall, the Saints needed to beat Carolina to keep this thing alive, and they did just that. And so, even though the Bucs, then went to Carolina and lost, there was a time when Tampa Bay could have just won 2 of their final 3 games, and they're the division champions. Now it's all messed up. And no, I don't think he's going to take back what he says about the Saints, even if the Saints help him or not. I think Baker is keenly aware that they had a chance. They've had many chances. We've been talking about them controlling their destiny since they were 5-1, 6-2, and all they've done is lose since then. So destiny don't give a damn about you if you're not going to participate and try to do something about that control. So they're where they deserve to be, which is needing help. Maybe they win 8 games, right? But to me, you know what? You didn't do enough if you won 8 games to be the division champ. I realize Carolina might be 8-9 and they win it, but they would have at least beaten the teams in their own division. I mean, the Bucs have been bad at home. They've been bad in one of the worst divisions, if not the worst division, obviously statistically in football. Even though I said, the Rams and Seattle, has lost to a couple teams in this division, but you can't back your way into things, right? You can't be a bad football team and expect other people to help you. And that's what's been going on up until now. And so now we'll see if they have enough pride to go out there and try to finish the deal and at least put some pressure. Atlanta's not playing for anything, obviously. They're trying to finish their season strong for their head coach, for everybody else. But it will be interesting to see that game between New Orleans and Atlanta. And I can't believe I'm going to be sitting here Sunday afternoon. We could go to a game on Saturday. The Bucs could win. You still won't know if they're division champs or if the Panthers are. You'll have to watch the game on Sunday afternoon and then figure it out and get reaction. It's the worst, absolute worst assignment journalistically. The only thing I compare it to was after the Bucs went to the NFC Championship game in '99. The next year they started out poorly, and they had a lot of seasons where they would start out 3-4. But at one point they were 8-7. That's when they played 16 games. They went to Cincinnati, and they just absolutely pummeled the Bengals. And it was an afternoon game, 1:00 game. But they needed some help to get in, and they would have gotten in at 8-8. But they needed some help, and what they needed were for the I believe it was the Chargers to beat Arizona. And instead, at the last play of the game, Chris Jackie, I think, was the place kicker, kicked a pretty long field goal, and it knocked the Bucs out of the playoffs at 8-8. And we didn't find out. I'd done the game, I had written the game, I'd gone to dinner, I came back, watched the end of that on TV. The Bucs were flying home and heard it, I guess, on the loudspeaker or some kind of radio signal or something. And that's how they learned they had missed the playoffs at 8-8. So those things happen where you're sitting there, your job is done. You can't do anything about it now. And I think the Bucs are going to regret so many games they let get away, and so many bad efforts that they had. And, quite frankly, I mean, they were lucky to win some of the games they did win. You go back and look at those comebacks. I mean, they needed one against the Jets, for God's sakes. The Baker magic was on, and it was real. So I think the football gods, Steve, or just like sports gods, have a way of humbling you and saying, yeah, this is what you deserve. You know what I mean? Like that just happens in sports sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, they always talk about the whatever sport it is, the gods or whatever, but ultimately if the Bucs mix the playoffs, they have nobody to blame but themselves.
Of course not.
Yes, they had injuries. Yes, they had this, but you really, as you look back at it, you think back. I mean, they started 5-1,
Mm-hmm.
but they really should have lost several of those games.
Absolutely. Fourth and
Yep.
10 with the Texans. Are you
Yep.
kidding me?
And I remember being asked, "Is that sustainable? Their comebacks?" And I was like, "No, it's not. Like they've
It
got
was
to."
not. Nope.
You hoped it was just early season, getting into a groove, Josh Grizzard finding his way, et cetera,
Right.
is what you kind of hoped, and they would figure it out and start beating the teams you're supposed to, and they never did.
Right.
I mean, they've lost 7 of 8.
Yeah, they've won one game in 2 months, and it was the Arizona Cardinals, and it wasn't that convincing of a win, believe me. Like this team has lost its way, and for a good long time. They've lost that loving feeling. You never close your eyes. I mean, that's really where they're at. They have no clue what it's like to win. It's been so long. Um, and so, even if they were, and I don't know, you know, do they feel new life on Sunday? Are they going to be kind of woe is me now that Atlanta lost or Atlanta won? Like, I don't know what to expect from these guys. They're supposed to be professionals and they're supposed to, be ready to win at all times. But I don't know how into it they will be. And in any case, if they do win and go in the postseason, you're fairly certain that one of the teams that comes in here is going to be a better football team. Might be one that the Bucs have already beaten, but you still think they're going to be better, and you might be one and done. So that's still always a possibility. But yeah, huge blow against the Bucs with the Rams going into Atlanta. They trailed in this game 21-0. The last time that the Atlanta Falcons blew a lead that big, Tom Brady was holding the hardware at the Super Bowl.
Too soon.
28-3, man. That's the last time they were up 21 points and almost blew it for a game. That would have been classic. But and here's the thing. There were some plays in that last gasp effort by the Rams where
That catch by Nakua that wasn't a catch.
It was
but, oh my
such
goodness.
a great
he had it.
play.
He had it, and then it fell out of it, slipped out of his hands.
But he never really dropped it. It just kind of he lost possession on the way down,
Yep.
So therefore it wasn't a catch while his feet were in bounds. But like unbelievable play. And then he had a guy before that wide ass open, like down the field by himself, and Stafford missed him. It's a touchdown. It's a walk-in touchdown. And he missed him. So in the big moments, Stafford couldn't make the big plays, My other observation is this, that if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I know I've got to beat the teams in my division, I tell you what, you better get you some linebackers that can fly. Like you need 2 of them and you need them right now because Bijan Robinson is an absolute beast. I mean, he's the closest thing I've seen to Barry Sanders in a long time. But he just kills people, both with anytime you put it in his hands, run, pass, you name it. I mean, he's a stud, just an absolute stud. And you're going to have to deal with this monster for years and years. I think he's in his 4th year, maybe going into.
Yeah, he's played. This is his 3rd season.
Yeah, his 3rd season. So next year will be his 4th. I mean, he's all of that. Like I said, they were comparing him to, and I don't think it sounds unfair, but I don't think it is that they're comparing him in terms of his running style, elusiveness, all that. It's to Barry Sanders, and that's who he reminds you of. Not built exactly the same way, obviously, but yeah, just unbelievable talent. And they got Pitts and Drake and all these guys. They're going to be good if they settle the quarterback situation, and I don't know who it will be. That's a team with a lot of talent over there, So we'll see, the Bucs were trying to prepare as best they can, and their attitude seems all right. I mean, Todd Bowles said that there's no divisiveness anywhere, that they're all in it together and so on and so forth. But man, I'm telling you, an impressive win by the Atlanta Falcons just really tore up the Bucs' chances. It just did. And now they got to be big Saints fans again. It's happened before, but now they got to have it happen for them again. So, it is what it is, man. You gotta take care of business, and we weren't able to do it. So, All right, no days off this week because it's a Saturday football game, and that means that the Bucs will be at practice as if it were a Wednesday. We'll have a chance to talk to Baker Mayfield, see how he's getting over some of those tough turnovers and interceptions that he's had late in games, the last three games. Also talk to Todd Bowles, and then tomorrow it'll be time for Josh Grizzard. Open locker rooms both days, so lots to come out of that. Check it out on TampaBay.com and the Tampa Bay Times. Lightning go back to practice, right? I think today.
Yeah, they're in California, so they'll practice this afternoon. They have a 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock California time game on Wednesday, New Year's Eve against Anaheim.
Interesting. Yeah, there you go. A lot of college football coming up this week, obviously. We'll talk about that as we get your mailbag questions in. You can do that at any time. Send them to us on Twitter at SportsDayTB, or X, if you will, at NFL Stroud. My email address anytime is rstroud@tampabay.com. Appreciate you guys listening. Go see our friends at Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Check out all the beautiful watches they have there, including NFL watches, 32 teams. While supplies last, it is Breitling Boutique International Plaza. Let them know you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I am Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.